Good afternoon, good morning still. Matt Rosenstiel, co-broker of Coldwell Banker Pacific Realty. Um, Great guy, one of the funniest, genuinely one of the funniest and most honest brokers or agents I've had the pleasure to deal with. So
Thank
thanks for giving
you.
us some time, Matt.
Absolutely. My pleasure, Dan.
So quick interview series. We're going to go through 10 questions, and I'd just love to pry into a little bit about your experience, your background, your insight into the market, and generally just learn a little bit about what makes Matt Rosenstiel Matt Rosenstiel.
Excellent. It's my favorite subject.
Let's go. So question number one is how did you get to where you are today, and where are you today?
Okay. So I'm sitting in Playa Junquial on the western coast of Costa Rica. And really, I got here by sheer dumb luck, sort of following one step after the other. Right after college, I graduated and signed up for a U.S. organization called Peace Corps. They send volunteers abroad for 2-year stints, basically to live in small rural communities and do what they can for the betterment of that community. So I actually had a 2-year stint only 7 or 8 miles from where I am today. During that volunteer experience, I met somebody who hired me for a job the 7 years after that. Peace Corps would have been 2008 to 10. Then I was directing an environmental NGO for another 7 years there, from 10 until 17. And finally, in 2017, our second son was born, and it became very apparent that NGO work wasn't going to put enough food on the table anymore. I had been doing some real estate from, for the 3 years prior to 2017 as sort of the sales agent for a couple neighborhoods. And then really in 2017 decided I had to transition to become a full-time realtor. I joined first with Coldwell Banker Tamarindo, a franchise based north of us, though I really always had my little office down in this quiet town south of the tourism area. And 2 years ago, officially transitioned to being my own franchise owner broker, along with a partner who you know very well, Larry, down here in Junquial. So now we've got a small yet growing team of 4 agents working for us. And, more and more I've been, sort of an agent focused on growing a team and taking that role more as a, business developer, mentor, and broker rather than doing quite 100% my own real estate myself.
Nice, Matt. That's quite the journey, actually. And
Thanks.
quite an extreme change from NGO work into real estate. Had you had previous sales background or anything like that back home, or was it really just being in a place at a time and here we go?
Never a lick of sales. Really, my professional background was Peace Corps, then environmental NGO, and then, slowly transitioning into real estate through that. So never had any experience trying to sell people, etc., until really that transition to real estate here now 7 or 8 years ago.
Wow. And also that's and congratulations on that, because that's quite a meteoric rise as well. I mean, not many people that I've spoken to or that I know of go from 0 sales to entry sales to becoming one of the top performers to owning your own brokerage, and now you've got a team of people underneath you. You've got your own brokerage, and it's
Thank you.
it's quite a success.
Well, several things have worked very well for me, and that's, I'm one of very few foreigners who have lived in this particular small community for as long as I have. And from, since I started in real estate, I was, able to associate myself with this place and really make it sort of a location, a community where a vast majority of the business started to come through my office. And especially because I had the opportunity to really leverage my previous community development work, where I was with the Watershed Environmental NGO, I mean, we formed a Green Chamber of Commerce. We did a lot of sort of community organization work that when I transitioned to real estate was immediately that base layer of name recognition and trust with a lot of the local community members, also the foreigners that had invested here, that gave me a good position to then become sort of the broker of this area specifically.
Okay. Interesting. And then of course it's and real estate, as we know, is about relationships, isn't it? And the more people that you know, the more people that know that you're a real estate agent, and the more, especially in a smaller community as well. And I think it was great that, you know, to see you selling as much as, if not more than, a lot of other people who were focusing in on the Tamarindo area, which is our you know, Manhattan, if you like, of the Guanacaste, where the, you know, the traffic is and the people are and the prices are crazy, but that's where a lot of the action is. And I think a lot of people really didn't want to get in the car and drive to Junquial, even though it's a 40-minute drive.
Yeah, well, there's for sure. And but you know, to be clear, I'm no Dan Williams when it comes to numbers and you know gross sales volume every year. But absolutely, early on in my career, I received advice that, you know, an experienced broker saying that there is a huge opportunity in becoming that broker of choice for a specific community, even if that community is small. And I think every realtor starting out in laser focusing themselves on a market to try and become the go-to person in that, even that street or that neighborhood, and then eventually branching out to a larger sphere of influence. That's the basis of a good business, whether you're in, you know, those huge tourism areas, a bigger city where there's more competition, or a very small community where you have a lower volume of real estate transactions, but less competition to deal with. So an opportunity in terms of the percentage of the market that you can grab.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then you can start leveraging, you know, the referral business. And we know that referral business is the best business. It's easy, it's consistent. And if you're doing it right, it can continue for quite a while as well.
Oh, absolutely. At this juncture, you know, I do very little farming in terms of, you know, going out and looking for listings. I have people coming to me for that purpose, and I haven't had to cold call a potential seller in a very long time. And that's, you know, the advantage of having been here for the tenure I've had. And again, you know, I had that 7 years doing community work where I was building lots of relationships that I think frequently realtors, when they're starting out, they need to replace, you know, if they don't have that kind of experience, they're going to have to replace it with some really hard, you know, boots on the ground, pavement beating, in order to establish those relationships and get their face, you know, to be a friendly, well-known one in the community.
Yeah, no, that helps a lot. And actually, we're answering some of the questions that I had. I think, you know, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was what helped you the most with your success, and I think we've answered that one pretty easily, which has just been instilling yourself as the main go-to guy in that particular community, and having a real good understanding of the market, what's available, what's not available. I think that's great.
There are two other things I would mention. You know, I kept a very regular presence on YouTube and established a social media following that never went viral or huge. However, it became the most important way that I build rapport face-to-face with clients. And third, from the very start, I implemented a very rigid system to hold myself accountable for how much work I do. It's, you know, in my case, it's this crazy spreadsheet with 30 different columns, daily tasks. Yeah. But it's something that I think one of the biggest struggles realtors, especially in your first 2 years, to get into this, you're going to be in a field where there's no clear productivity metric, and you can go insane if you've got a down market, or if you're just starting out and if you don't have a lot of business to do. waking up every day and trying to feel like, okay, I've got to work today. What do I do? And finding some system or whatever capacity you can to instill, finding those accountable goals that you can set for yourself, and then actually making sure that you're meeting them is, to me, absolutely fundamental to going from, starting out in your first sales to owning a business, 7 years down the road.
That's really good insight as well. And I think it's really easy, isn't it? Without a platform or a structure, to spend 10 hours on your phone or your computer being really busy, and you didn't really do very much. You responded
Correct.
super quick and everybody got all the information they needed immediately, but you didn't go through your list of A to Zs, and you can finish the day, finish a 10-hour day thinking, wow, that was a good one. But I think
Exactly.
if you're not measuring what you're doing, actually that wasn't good. I didn't send any emails out. I didn't speak to
100%.
I didn't speak to my clients, etc.
Yep. And I also had guidance in designing that. And really, that's where, I listened to uh, good advice in trying to line up how I can best be productive, not in just ways that keep you busy, but the ways that actually eventually churn out sales. And I think if anything has made it easy for me to go from zero to owning my own business, it's literally that along the way, I actually absorbed the advice that was coming at me from all different angles. I mean, you and I both had an incredible mentor directly working over us as an associate broker in our brokerage. There's information out there online, but then having people, honestly, those 10-second bits of advice from experienced people who can immediately solve a problem for you if you're just willing to actually absorb and implement it. That's been absolutely huge for me. And I see the clearest difference between some of the people who succeed in this game and the people who struggle or just drop out really is, yeah, the information that they expose themselves to and how much they are willing to actually implement it. And, you can watch great hour-long masterclass YouTube videos all day. If you don't turn around and implement it the next day, you've wasted your hour, watching that idea to begin with. So, to me, it's all been adaptability and being willing to do, to follow through on that good advice. And I mean, the YouTube thing is a perfect example. I loathed social media and still, pretty much hate it. But early on, a great real estate mentor said, your YouTube channel can be the key to your success. I took the advice, I implemented it. I didn't like it at first, and now it's the most easy way for me to get clients. And I'm just, glad that I actually did something rather than hearing the idea and, failing on it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And from my perspective, from being part of that team, I know that I would often look at how many emails we'd sent. And because I had visibility of how many emails you'd sent, Larry, Deborah, and myself, and I didn't want to be the bottom of the pile ever. And that I found that helped me as well, because extra drive, you think, I've reached out to everybody today, I can take it a little bit easy. And I go on and look, and I'm like, man, Matt sent, another 100 emails more than I have today. How? So I'm back in and I'm thinking of something to, getting creative and trying to keep with those clients. But
Absolutely.
that again is what helps and drives having I think the accountability, having the
Totally.
information, the accountability, and then having someone, driving yourself doing it's been a huge help.
Absolutely. You can feel like a completely, sort of isolated ship on a vast sea with nothing, no reference points in real estate. And getting those markers is really important to understand how you're performing and, to drive yourself.
Yeah, I completely agree. what if you were to pick one thing, and that one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you started, what would that be?
That's a great question. And it's hard to admit that I didn't know everything at one point in history. Um, really, man, those, when I started, I spent a couple years totally spinning my wheels, thinking that there was some luck involved, and that you're really sort of sitting there and hoping that this could be your lucky day, that the right lead may hit, that they might have the right attitude and that they might click with you. And uh, as soon as I got rid of that and really learned that there is a method to being an effective realtor, and it's tried and true, there are billions of dollars of research to enhance it. There are people out there who will simply tell you how to do it. That was the biggest sort of philosophical change that made me go from worrying, struggling, stressing, not enjoying myself, to instead having what I feel is a very rewarding day-to-day creative process where I know the method, I know the fundamentals, and I know that by following, what I've been given and the process that I've set, I will generate income for myself and my family. Uh, and it's no longer, there's no mystical, hoping that the right client comes. It's following the process, sticking to my fundamentals, and just applying a recipe that, lots of it I've been taught by others, and some of it I've made up, what works best for me personally.
Nice. I think that's an interesting takeaway, that the last point you mentioned as well is that what works best for others and what works best for you personally. Because in my opinion, one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a salesperson or realtor or whatever is not sticking to your style. You are you, and the more genuine you are, I think the more people are going to buy into it. And I think people spend more time trying to shoehorn themselves into being something that they're not, than actually just being genuine and finding the client who's going to marry that.
Oh, absolutely. Or they do the same thing with their marketing funnels and general strategy for client outreach. They'll see Instagram is the biggest growing platform and you should do it. And one day they'll start an Instagram profile and be, blitzing that for 30 days. But if it's something that's not fundamentally what they want to do, and if it actually, in their market may not bear results, yeah, people need to realize that there are many different ways to succeed at this. And lots of agents will get frustrated and quit trying to apply some different formula that doesn't actually work for them. I mean, you can be somebody who sends 2,000 emails a month, and that's just the brilliant way that you are generating business and really creating revenue for yourself. You can also be someone whose inbox is a nightmare, who's just brilliant at getting on the phone and stopping by houses and actually going out and being social, and have a completely different model for how you do things. What's important, and what I find, every time you can't beat, is that you do have to have systems in place, mentorship to keep everything under control, or it doesn't matter what system you're trying to work, or what angle you're taking, eventually your business comes off the rails. And, I find it critical for people to have either a broker who is very available to them to keep them in place on that system, or a mentor who's available like a coach, because the biggest risk to your business will be not being able to stick with those fundamentals when you get either stressed or poor, or when your first deal falls through, etc. And you really, I can't say how many times it's been important for me even now, 7, 8 years later, to call my co-broker and many times be able to, bounce a situation off him and immediately get clarity, because somebody with more experience than me, that I'm still willing to admit has a lot more knowledge than I do, is ready to just give a simple answer instead of me sitting there struggling and, possibly losing a deal just because, heck, I didn't get that 10 seconds of advice that I needed. So absolutely, to me, as time goes on, people may have brilliant starts or be able to have those few bits of luck where they get great leads, etc. The people who are doing this happily many years later and really building a business like yourself, are the ones who can implement a system and then who have help in ensuring that they're sticking to their goals and that they're not losing track of those fundamentals.
Yeah, awesome. That's great, Matt. What is your biggest success story in real estate? And I don't mean the fanciest house that you've sold. I think, real estate is different all over the world, but I think from what I know of your market, there tends to be less of people moving home to home, and it's more secondary or ROI style of home, with, over the last few years, a lot more people coming down to be sort of full-time in Costa Rica. What would you think is the single deal, I suppose, that really made you feel like you'd done a good job?
Well, there's been so many at this point. Gosh, I cannot give a single biggest. I can give a recent deal that I feel is a solid success story, where, friends of mine got into a pinch because they had sold their condo themselves, and had the buyers back out on the last day of the sale process. They had no deposit in escrow, and they themselves had already moved forward on the purchase of their next Costa Rica property.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden, they lose their sale. They are about to lose their deposit on the other property. And I felt it was an enormous success because, first of all, yeah, when they came to me, I was able to find them an immediate buyer. And I'm in that position because I've been in this location now so long. I know the inventory. I had even, made an offer on a similar condo recently. So, this was a deal where I was able to bring two parties together in one phone call, basically. But at the same time, I was also able to help them save their purchase down in the other area, because I know the broker down there, I'm able to call that person. They have confidence in who I am, and they know that I've found this new deal for the sellers. And it was just a moment where all around I felt it was the culmination of this local, real estate brokerage, producing what it's supposed to. I solved a really big problem for some friends. I made a pretty solid commission, representing two parties like that. We went under contract without even, I think 24 hours passing. And at the same time, I was able to match both parties with the solution, to what they needed. And so that felt like a really, a culminating moment where, yeah, it's only possible once you've put in the work that I've put. And once you've done that and you have those kinds of relationships, you get those phone calls once or twice a year. Hey, I'm ready to sell right now. And you already have a buyer lined up, and things start to really click into place nicely. It doesn't happen every month. Like I said, a couple times a year, and it feels like an enormous, enormous success.
Congrats, Matt. And that's a great attribute to your success. And I think, like you said, it goes back to your previous comment of the guy who sat in his office waiting for that lucky buyer or seller to walk in. That is the lucky buyer seller situation, and it didn't come through luck. It came through years of hard work and some failure and some success, and mixed in there. But the end result
Yep.
is free deal.
Absolutely, for sure.
Final question. I was going to ask you that as a final question, the best advice you can give to people who are looking to succeed in real estate, but I feel you've really covered that all the way through. So, what is the next step in your business?
Really, we are slowly adding agents to our team, and I find that the level of mentorship that it really takes to develop an agent from somebody who's fresh off, whatever job they're leaving to get into real estate is an extraordinary amount of mentorship. And my next step, since 23 this year and going forward, is to give, about a quarter of my time to mentoring, helping those agents, and really trying to develop them into the same level of happy professional that occasionally has just amazing deals landing in their lap as well. I see a lot, this industry is plagued by brokerages that accept any agent who's willing to walk in the door. They're willing to do that because they plan on providing absolutely no mentorship nor resources to that person to get started. And it's a huge reason that such a great percentage of real estate agents end up failing in their first year. So doing the opposite of that, and instead selecting one person per year and really making sure they have what they need to get launched.
Yeah, and that's huge. I think it's so important, as we've both experienced. There's one approach of just hiring a ton of people and firing them out the door, and then the second approach of really nurturing them and turning them into sales professionals. And I think we know which is the way forward.
Yep, absolutely.
Matt, we're under a minute to go, so thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Appreciate it.
No, I really appreciate you, and I'm going to get your YouTube handles and promote everything that you do so well when I promote this video and post it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and if you want to boost my ego again anytime, you're more than welcome.
I would absolutely love that.
Take it easy. Great to see
Thanks,
you, Dan.
Matt. Take care. Bye bye.
Hasta luego.